Welcome to the cabin project. This cabin took 8 months to build. It's 52 logs, and we started in the fall, built through the winter, and into the spring. I did this with a youth group from my church, and I have no previous construction experience. I just started doing a lot of research. Log cabins are something that really interests me, and just as I worked along, I learned as I went, and ended up with this. Anyways, the snow is still up around the cabin quite a bit. You can't really tell, but there are another 3 rows of logs underneath the door. You can start to see the first row underneath, but there's still 2 more rows underneath that. So when the snow goes away, this cabin's going to look a little taller. For the roof, I just used a heavy-duty tarp. It's a cheap and easy solution. We'll see how effective it is over the years. But of course, at any point, we can shingle the roof instead. For the notches on the logs, I just did a normal square notch. I didn't worry about doing a saddle notch or anything like that. It seems to be quite effective anyway, just doing the square notch. The construction of this cabin was made possible by a lot of help and a lot of donations from people. In fact, this door is a donated dining table that I ended up converting into this door. And I framed it with just some spare wood that I had on site. And the window is just simple plexiglass. And there's my homemade sledgehammer that came in handy quite often. Now there's no doorknob or anything, but I added this little string here. It releases the latch, and then you're able to go inside. The floor is rough cut poplar, 2 1/4 inch thick, but I also have some boards here that are from the hardware store as well. And they aren't as thick, so I had to put plywood underneath to kind of level it off. And underneath the floor, I have 2x4s running underneath as support, and underneath the 2x4s I have patio stones leveled off underneath in the ground to kind of give it some footing. So this is a floating floor, it's not actually attached to the cabin. So, there's the view. The cabin is 10 feet by 10 feet here, but with the loft it is 10 feet by 16 feet because the loft overhangs the front door. Right here we have a waste oil stove, which was a donation. It's a homemade stove. Actually, the guy who donated it to us, it's made out of an old propane tank, and it works great. And up here is our fuel source. It's used motor oil. It's a free type of fuel you can pick up from almost anywhere. And right here we have a drip valve, so you can control the rate of flow. And it just comes down to the tube, into the brake line, and into the firing chamber. And because you can set the drip, you can just leave it overnight, and it's pretty reliable. It feeds itself, so you don't have to worry about stoking it. Just got to make sure that your fuel tank is full for the night. And got my tools over here in the corner, and I made this homemade coffee table out of some poplar that I had. Quite bright in here. I wanted to add a lot of windows to make it nice and cheerful in here. The roof is at a 45-degree angle. That way there's plenty of room in the loft. And there's my adjustable chandelier. It's set high right now to give light to the whole cabin at nighttime. But if we're playing cards or something at nighttime, we can lower the chandelier and it lights up the table so everyone can see. As well, I've got a secondary lantern up there to light up the loft. These windows are another donation to the cabin. Okay, let's go up into the loft. And there's the view. And then you can see I added a secondary loft up here. This can be for supplies, just to keep stuff out of the way downstairs, or it can be for one person to sleep comfortably. After one person it gets a little crowded. And at the end, you can't really see it, but I added a piece of plexiglass at the top of the peak there, so it lets light in but it's still sealed. Now for the gaps between the logs, what I ended up doing was going out and buying some brown insulation and sealing up the gaps, and I use spray foam for the smaller gaps. And this may not be as permanent a solution as some, but it's definitely cheap and it's efficient. And in the end, if we want, we can end up doing something that's a little more permanent. Thank you for coming to see the cabin.